Thank you for joining us for today's episode of The Real Spill, a podcast where I spill on all things multifamily advocacy and how we as industry professionals can work with our elected officials, stakeholders, and allies to bring about change for the rental housing industry. My guests are subject matter experts whose unique perspectives will help listeners understand how the issues impact them. Let's get into The Real Spill. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Real Spill here on the Multifamily Media Network. And with me today is my friend, Mark Scully Vaughn. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, Katie Spillers. It is a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I appreciate you joining me. This has been a long time coming, a long time in the works.
Yes, it definitely has. I'm surprised it's taken this long.
I know you're just a little, I know we both are, but you're just a little bit busy these days, you know?
That's, the blessing and the curse of it all.
That's right. Heavy is the head. Heavy is the head. Well, I know you and folks from Upper State know you, but we have listeners from all over the country. Can you introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So, like Katie Spiller said, my name is Mark Scully Vaughn. Most of you may have not known that was a little addition, but here's the public announcement of it. So I am the current owner and president of Arleio Living, which is a third-party management firm based here out of Greenville, South Carolina. But we are expanding operations up to New York next week. We also have Boston and Texas in the pipeline. So we're very excited for this expansion. Some more about me. My tenure has been in the multifamily world. I feel like it's not something that any of us plan to fall in, but I started off as a leasing agent way back when, and kind of grew up through the ranks. And yeah, so it has been a wild ride, and now here I am leading the force behind Arleio.
And I'm so happy for you and excited for you. And I know a lot of our Upper State and South Carolina Apartment Association folks have been like, where's Mark? What's he been doing? It's like, he's been everywhere and doing everything and working nonstop. And just even at our Lyceum Legends event last week, I mean, you're picking up stuff because, I mean, you've got side hustle upon side hustle. Like you're one of the hardest working people that I have ever met in my life.
Well, thank you. Yes, sometimes, with silence comes a lot of preparation work. So just because I've kind of fallen in the shadows doesn't mean I'm not still here.
Oh, yeah. You've always got something in the pipeline, something going on between your businesses and your husband Austin's and helping him with stuff. And if y'all didn't realize, we got an exclusive here on The Real Spill. Like, the Mark Scully's off the market. Like,
Yes.
Austin put a ring on it.
The actual wedding isn't until April, but yes.
Oh, yes. I have the fabulous invitation on my refrigerator. So I look at y'all and remind myself every time I go to open the refrigerator that, yay, and I have to be looking good at y'all's fabulous wedding because I can imagine it's going to be amazing.
It has a ton of hidden surprises in it as well.
Oh, I love surprises. As long as it's not with like legislation and something added on that's,
no,
horrible.
that is probably the one day I will disregard anything work to the best of my capabilities.
Absolutely. We'll do our best to hold you to that as well because somebody's going to have to take your phone. We're going to have to confiscate your phone, your work phone, because you've got at least two.
My phone, the work phone, the work tablet, the work iPad, yes, all of it. I don't want any of it that day.
No. It's going to be all about fun times and celebration.
Yes. Sure.
So before you started in multifamily, I know when we connected, it was like you were interested in government affairs and, I'd been running the show for a while. So I'm like salivating, like somebody else who's interested. But you had a unique experience where you actually worked for a member. Was it a member of Congress or a member of the state legislature? Remind me.
Both of them were members of Congress. So I worked for Representative Pelosi out of Melbourne, Florida. And then I went up to New Jersey, back to my roots where I worked for Representative Pallone.
And now, did
Yeah.
you work in their in district office? Is that right?
Yes, I worked in district both times, and it was very eye-opening to say the least.
And what were you doing? Were you scheduling or field service
Yeah, so
consultant?
a traditional congressional intern, you can kind of see a more so of a atmosphere of getting firsthand experience between, the countless networking and community events that the congressman is a part of. You're talking to constituents. Sometimes you're the first on the line with constituents. So you're being that ear on behalf of the congressman and the staff to kind of listen, like you said, set some appointment schedules. And then from there, it was a lot of I had a couple unique experiences where my one internship, I got to extend into the spring. So that opened several doors for, additional visibility into kind of the nitty gritty. And then the first one, we had a staff member go out on maternity leave and I helped cover her caseload. I stayed on past my initial term as an intern and was able to help. We did a lot of immigration work within that office. So, helping facilitate timely expeditions of those cases and providing updates as well. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience. The different connections that I made, the different levels of civic engagement that you learn and that are not universally known. It was truly amazing to see kind of what really fuels and what constituents are passionate about on top of having some knowledge backed. But yeah, it was definitely a very eye-opening experience to say the least.
And what made you want to apply for those I'm assuming there's a pretty lengthy application process.
Oh, yes. This spurred from probably my sophomore year in high school. I actually started my first congressional internship at 16. So I was in a program within the high school that let us do our sophomore or our junior and senior years in a college type capacity. So I wasn't in classes all from 8:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. I had a very flexible schedule. So, I wanted to do something that would kickstart career development. And within that, I was in a government affairs class in high school in my sophomore year. And the teacher, Kevin Heyman, I remember him very much, very well. So he encouraged me to kind of look into those options of congressional internships. I thought I was going to be a poli-sci major, and that unfortunately abruptly ended. My passion for the medical field took over at that point. So yeah, it was really just kind of looking for just ways to develop as I entered the career space.
Yeah, well, it definitely gave you experience working in with the public. I mean, multifamily will throw you right in, right in the deep end of
Oh
customer
yes.
service and working with the public. But I can imagine that constituents are just as passionate about whatever it is that they are calling about as residents are when they're calling you, or prospective residents are calling and asking questions. So we didn't realize, your steps were being ordered there, that you're getting some great experience. And so how did you make the switch over to healthcare? I remember us talking, because of course, if folks don't know, Mark and I have been buddies. It was Spills and Scully for the longest.
For
Um,
years at this point.
yes, yes. And I don't know that
Yeah.
I know we've discussed it, but what made you
Yeah.
decide, like, okay, healthcare is where I want to pivot?
Yeah. So in high school around the same time, I was very club oriented. I played football and then was also a part of, gosh, I can't even remember what clubs I was, National Honor Society. And within that, we had a zero period. So I went to school for zero period, which was before school even opened. I was there just doing a few different things, but it was a community based kind of class, if you will. So I also was in Wild, that I was in a young professionals group. It was more business related. And then also I was doing more science related classes at that time in my sophomore and going into junior year. And so I was in a health science class, and one of my really good friends, Alexis, at the time, she said, let's do this medical program together. And that, I think that's really kind of what spurred the medical interest for many of you, anybody that really knows. And I feel like a lot of people don't plan to be in property management. My undergrad, which still isn't finished, is in biochemistry, but the goal was to be a cardiologist. And that's where I was up until I moved into the South, is when I made the transition into property management. So, yeah, so that's at least to that point, that's how the medical field came into play, was just being a part of a certain club, and a certain friend said, let's do this together. We actually then within that club went to compete on a state and regional level for healthcare services. So if memory serves me correctly, I think we made it to regionals, but then we had to pay to go to the national, and I think that's kind of where that stopped. But we at least placed.
Oh, that's cool. Was it like
Yeah,
HOSA or something like that? Health
yeah,
occupation, something like that? We had that at my high
yeah.
school
That's exactly
too.
what it was.
Yeah, yeah, one of my friends, I highly doubt that she listens, but, one of my high school or, well, childhood before that friend's name's Daria. She's, was a labor and delivery nurse, if she's not still. I haven't stalked her Facebook, but that's what she, was part of in high school, so I was familiar
Yeah,
with that we had a club. That's so cool. So
yeah,
when you moved to the South, like, how did you end up making the transition into property management? Like you said, we
yeah.
don't I know maybe one person, and I think it was Dawn that I interviewed that's, with Smart Apartment Solutions that actually went to school for property management, but the rest of us just kind of fell in and
We
you
just
get
fall
sucked.
in.
Yeah, we get sucked
Yeah.
in. How did you get, sucked into property management?
How did I get looped in? So when I had moved to the South, I moved down to Savannah, and I was kind of toying with the idea of, I was in the medical field at that time. I was doing ER trauma, was kind of my specialty and my niche within the ICUs and CCUs, which was definitely an interesting little venture. So when I was relocating and kind of trying to look for different roles and positions, a lot of them were third shift. And at that time, I was working third shift, so it didn't bother me much. But I was like, well, let's try to become. I wanted an office job. I just wanted an office job. And so I had started looking at different office assistant positions. And within that, just kind of happened to a friend of a friend knew someone who was looking for a leasing consultant. And that's how it happened. I started as a leasing agent and just kind of grew up from there.
What company, were you with first?
Yeah, I was with PEM. It was PEM Management, and it was out of Richmond Hill. And yeah, it was different. The office jobs I'd had up until that point were all either, I did a brief stint, relatively brief stint, but that was actually 2, 3 years with the Supreme Court of New Jersey, kind of transitioning out of my internships, and worked in judicial education and performance, where we partnered like with the Senate to help facilitate, the training of the different municipal, superior, supreme court judges and justices for the state of New Jersey. So it was definitely going to the medical field and then going back to the office was a refreshing transition. It was just, I was not prepared for what property management was going to be or turn into, really.
Nope, because you can't make this
Nope.
up.
You can't. No, you can't.
Nope, not at all. And now, so you were in Savannah first. What brought you to the
Yeah.
Upstate?
At that time, I trickled up to Atlanta and then left property management in February of 2020. And so I think everyone could assume that going back to the medical field in February of 2020, those following 2 years that I stayed in the medical field were nothing short of chaos. COVID, the entire time of COVID, really, I was in the emergency rooms. I was in ICUs and CCUs. Somehow didn't get COVID. Haven't had it once.
Me
Don't know how.
neither.
I
Same.
don't know how,
We're freaks of
but it
nature,
must be
Mark. I
it
mean,
must
I
be
think
something in our blood. It's
yeah.
that
Are you
property
O positive?
management blood.
Yeah, it's property management. We've been immune. Oh gosh. Are you O positive as well?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Maybe so. That is so weird. But
Well, there.
yeah, property
But
management was
yeah,
a wild time. It was, it was you got out right
Yeah.
before the pandemic hit. So the property management world or before the pandemic, but you got
Yeah.
into the medical doing what you were doing right as it was on the cusp of hitting. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yes. So, and then coming back after the time in the medical field, I had relocated to Greenville. I had worked in the ER at Prisma for a few months. And then I said, I really think it's time. COVID kind of did me in. Life was happening at the same time. So I said, it's time to kind of go back. And at that time, it was pivotal too, because I was contemplating finishing my degree. It's hard to work a full time job and do biology and chemistry labs full time. It was a really tough decision. And at that point, it was okay, let's go back to property management and kind of leave the dream of doing anything in the medical field behind. So that was kind of a hard transition. But then I entered into the world as a property manager. After the medical field, I decided to come and move to Greenville. So after relocating to Greenville, I did some time in the medical field with Prisma. I was in the emergency room there. And from there, it was kind of a pivotal moment. Life was happening. I was doing third shift and then transitioned to mid shift, which was 11 to 11, and still kind of was longing for, as I was growing a relationship and growing my relationships here in Greenville, I wanted to just have a little bit more of a normalized schedule. And so that's when I came back to property management as a property manager. And so from there, it has been a wild ride these last almost 5, 6 years here in Greenville.
Oh
It
yeah. And
truly
you're
has.
Yeah, and you're so passionate about the industry and advocating for the industry and professional development. You've even done a lot with the chamber. Can you talk about your time and what it means to you to be able to kind of give back, like what that experience was like working
Yeah.
with the chamber? And I'm sure you met a lot of cool people. You have that unique ability to network. You and I share that to where even with some of the things that you're doing, I would mention like, "Hey, have you talked?" "Yeah, I've already talked to him. Having lunch next week." I'm like, "That's right. Of course you are."
Yeah, of course I am. Yeah. So, kind of going back to that philosophy of while I was in high school, continuing and growing my career, my mindset has always been, I want to give back to my community in a way that I can also do it within my career. And, through that, like you mentioned, I found Greenville Chambers Young Professionals. They had a program called Pace Setters, and that is a wonderful program. And slight plug to them, would I know that they're doing the applications for the next cohort. So definitely, suggest kind of joining one of those groups. Within that, I have ended up going and joining their council, where I served as a community involvement chair that they've since repositioned and that seat no longer is available, but it just keeps kind of growing from there. I was able to do a partnership within the chamber and they had like a different community involvement. The name escapes me now. What was it, Spills?
Oh gosh.
Why can't I think about it? It's where
We
Cody works.
Oh, United Way?
Yeah, it was at the chamber in United Way. Clearly, honestly, I have the memory of a goldfish these days. But and clearly that was, Propel.
Okay, cool.
So, so yeah. Also, additionally, within the involvement with the chamber, they had, which I think they paused the program, but it was called Propel Greenville, which it was different industry leaders that take a 6-week board training program. And that was kind of at the same time where I was working towards, let's say, procuring.
So
So,
you were part of another program, through the chamber in United Way?
yeah, so Propel Greenville was a 6-week long board training program, which really kind of ramped up and propelled my interest in the Upper State Apartment Association's board of directors. Where of course I eventually was able to have a seat as direct associate, and then unfortunately, like many of us in the property management world, did have to step away just due to work constraints. So yeah, but the chamber has done really great things. I was also a part of the Rotary Greenville, which gives a lot back to the community and does a few different trainings, but they also do a lot of involvement within, Nickeltown with the school systems. So anywhere that I can give back to my community, and it's no matter where I live, I want to set my roots. And if those roots are temporary, then they are. The great thing about being a transplant is the roots are still going to be there, not shaking my roots and willy nilly. So hopefully Greenville is where it stays.
Yeah, that's
Community
awesome.
involvement has always been something very close to me.
Oh, yeah, and those programs offer such great networking opportunities too, and, I'm a firm believer that, like, you just never know who you're meeting, and I think we don't meet anyone in our life, whether they're someone who's temporary or someone who's, people are in your life for what, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And some of those
It
people are
is.
meant to help you on your journey. And you're like, oh my gosh, now this next venture, I met that person. Oh my gosh, I can do that. So I like to use this platform to encourage people that if they're, and I'm not trying, it's not to try to get people off site by any means, because it stressed me out to no end. And I obviously made a transition, but I would still like to support the people who are on site and just tell them that this is a great opportunity to expand your network, to meet people, and to really expand your horizons, and how even what property management does and the role that we play in the industry, that's far reaching beyond the roles that we hold on site, that we're part of a bigger community, and housing is such a huge
Oh, yeah.
part of community. And there's so few of us at the table. Like, you and I have gone to the events with the Affordable Housing Coalition, and we'll be
Oh, yeah.
about it. Like, you look at all the hundreds and thousands, like Upper State represents now, I think, 77,000 units. And that's not all of them. We don't represent
Yeah.
everybody. And we can't just have one or two of us at the table, because they are discussing things and proposing laws that would impact the industry. And yeah, I think the upper level management needs to see the value in allowing their
Mhm.
team members to go and participate in these types of events, because you don't know what's coming at you
Yeah.
potentially, if you're not, and that's said so much it's cliche, if you're not at the table, like, you don't know. But you and
Yeah.
I have been part of those conversations where
I've
we're
been part of a few.
yes, texting furiously during a meeting.
Too many times to count.
Yes, yes, like, what
Of
is
like,
going on
what are
here?
they doing? What are they thinking?
Right, we can't do this, we can't do that.
Yes.
Yep,
Many, many
and I
times.
think you probably already answered this, but you're obviously a person that's, not afraid to put yourself out there. Have you always been that way, or was it something that just happened in high school where you're just like, "Let me try this, let me try that," like, you're not afraid to take on a new challenge?
So, no, that is a very common misconception. I'm mortified every time I go into a room full of people. I was at an event just last night, and most of the time I start off entering the room as a wallflower. I'm the person that's kind of like off to the side. It's one of those you can't tell if they're kind of creepy or just nervous. But it's 100% nerves, 100%.
I
So,
can
and
attest, Mark
even
is
if
not
it's
creepy.
I would try not to be, but it's one of those, I'm an extroverted introvert. So truly, and I think that, Austin, even after 5, 6 years now, is finally starting to understand it takes a lot out of you sometimes. It's the the mental health component of this industry, and then just, on top of that, the professional development side. If you're not naturally an extrovert, like, trust and believe, I can talk to a wall most days, but when it comes to a larger crowd or anything really over a table discussion, as far as, how many individuals are in that space, I clam up. And so it's interesting, to say the least. One of the things that I've kind of, or tactic that I've taken from all of this and like learning, is sometimes you just got to attach yourself to the person that is the bubbly one. And
Mhm.
then from that, I can then springboard off of that. Then I'm a social butterfly. But no, so it's definitely been interesting. So no, I've not always been that way. And I'm still not to today, but we're working on it.
But you've become a long, long way. As somebody myself who, like, I think I met you after this point in my life. if I would have to speak, I would look at where my name was on the agenda, and I couldn't even pay attention to what people were saying because I'm sitting there like, like I'm going to stem it. I'm going to have a conniption. But I would get so nervous. My hands would
Oh, yeah.
shake and my voice would shake when I would start speaking. And it was something that I had to work very hard to overcome. But I've seen you in situations overcome that as well. Because for folks who don't know, when you're on the board, I just thought that I didn't know we had a board for the longest. I just thought that like whoever had to speak just drew the short straw that day is like, oh, lucky you, you get to speak in public. Ha,
Yeah.
sucker. But not realizing that they represented a committee and that was why they were there and they were
Mhm.
speaking to the crowd. And so I remember the day that I was like, hey, I'm not on the board. You're speaking and giving the update for the committee.
That is literally what is going through my head right now. And our lovely Courtney Kittle always likes to take the most unflattering pictures of me having a microphone or being up in front. And it absolutely captures the essence of my anxiety. I remember one of the last, conversation I had was at one of the updates with the Upper State Apartment Association. And I remember I had two hands on the microphone with a death grip standing at that podium and I was mortified. I don't, and hey, if it didn't look it, wonderful. But just know that inside, every part of me was crawling. I cannot wait to finish talking.
You hit it well, you hit it well. And that's one thing I think we do well in property management is we are actors and actresses, and
Yeah.
to an extent, we are there to play a part, right? Like, we're there to play a
Yes.
part. So much so that when I came to the supplier side of the industry and I didn't have to play that part, it was literally like me and attorneys, and I could just be me. I had forgot who the heck I was. I had to like, who am I, right?
Yeah.
Without being the property manager. Like I think I had worked myself to a point that my career was my personality.
Yeah.
And it's been an interesting patchwork over the last 4 years of rediscovering who I am. And you're going through a time now where you've started your own company and you are your own boss. And to an extent, I mean, we all have our decorum, we all have our professional decorum, we all know how to act and behave, we all have our manners and graces and all that jazz. But
Yeah.
when you're able to like let your guard down and just have yourself as the person who is driving you forward to complete goals and this, what has that been like for you? Has that been an easy transition or been tougher than you thought?
It has definitely been an interesting transition. It has been the last few months has really kind of been not only a growth opportunity for me professionally. It's opened a lot of different doors and has provided a lot of different insights where, my past roles has always been kind of managing up or managing down a couple tiers, but now it's just a different shift within this position. Anyone who's ever worked with me knows once a part of my team, always a part of my team. And, I will live and die by that saying. And within that, it's weird because now it's like the entire company is my team. It's not just a property or it's not just a set property. It's a whole company. And so as I'm building it out now, it's hey, you're taking over this department. Take care of these little ones. Take care of them. Like it's a different sense of pride in the shift. That's for sure. But then on top of that too, the other side of that is the mental health component. I kind of started my mental health journey about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was really eye opening. I think kind of you pointed to it as in this field as a property manager, as a regional manager, as leasing, as maintenance. We're putting on different faces and we're wearing that face 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And you almost kind of trick yourself into believing that that's just who you are. A lot of us, I feel like a lot of us have coping mechanisms of dark humor and just really jaded ideals, trying to break yourself of those habits and, trying to be optimistic, but then also, stay within those bounds and then trying to make your home health mentally and, your home environment, your home and not work part two. It is hard. It's really a delicate balance. And then, you know, it's great because now with Arleio Living, we're able to take all of the pain points, all the struggles I've had over the last tenure, and all the things I've heard. And we're doing a survey coming up, and that's why I was 10 minutes late, because we were finishing up the call. But we're doing surveys out to management teams. Anybody that wants to take it, I want to hear what your insights are. One of my biggest things was feeling like I'm split in 8 different directions,
Mhm.
and whether that be just because there was so many places that I had to be at once physically, or if it was like duplicity within systems and softwares. And so I think having the mental health component now in the position that I'm in, I'm able to kind of turn, as much as I'm pushing Arleio forward, I still need to remember that there's people behind me. And they're the people that are help pushing me forward and
Mhm.
pushing Arleio forward. So it's one of those just really interesting times of clear mud and trying to, dilute that mud. Um, and so, yeah, it has been definitely a different shift all around in so many different worlds.
So how many employees do you have at this point, or team members?
As I'll say, physical team members, we have 5. And then but we outsource a lot. What we've seen is within kind of the progression of Arleo and being able to say, hey, why do we have an ILS? Why do we have a separate system for, pay scan? Why do we have all these separate systems? Like, yes, most of our softwares have kind of learned that, but then why doesn't it integrate with our HR platform? Why
Mhm.
doesn't it integrate with our IT platforms? And so, really kind of centralizing right now and being able to, as we're growing and building this out, why is all of our marketing on 4 different websites? And, why do I have to track the domain on this one, this one? It's a little ridiculous. So within that, we have outsourced a lot of our components as well. So we have about 4 different teams that we're working with now to help kind of figure out the solution of like, hey, we want to be, and this is going to sound crazy because, I've always been one of those like, no, we need more people. And, but how can we do it lean? The shift of like, hey, when I was on site, being able to say, there's such a lack of resources. And there is. I mean, there's a lack of resources and communication, it feels most days. I mean, but now having to be in this seat and say, okay, how do I, make sure our ownership groups are getting the largest ROI that they can? How am I ensuring that we have longevity within these markets as we're expanding, up to New York and out to Texas? How can we do it? Because we service a lot of the mid-sized markets as well. Anything from 32 to 100, where we can manage remotely with portfolio managers. And so, as someone who has had to do 5 sets of financials every month,
Mhm.
I know it's not an easy feat. And so, how can I make that person's life easier? Is really kind of what I'm doing right now. And that's what we're doing some case studies on. We're kind of just shifting the dynamic and shifting the conversation, which has been just very strange. It has just been a very strange transition.
Yeah, and you went from the perspective, or have come from the perspective of someone who has worked for a company, and then to be able to
Mhm.
piece yours together and all the different technology. Like, I can't imagine the decision-making process that you guys had to go through to, I mean, pick a
Mhm.
CRM, like your property software,
Yeah.
your HR, if it's ADP, your paychecks, or what have you, just having to find your supplier partners, but thank goodness you know where to find them. Like,
I know where to find them.
you've done your
Yeah.
networking there, but to be able to make your own decisions. But there's so much out there now that it would blow my mind if I had to do that at this point, to say, okay, what property management software, what do I need to be wary of? Like, all those
Mhm.
decisions that go into making sure that you run a successful operation. Like, how long did that
Yeah.
process take? Like, just to, okay, this is what we're going with.
Yeah. It is, as my team will say, I we're still in the growth phase, my poor team. Because even today I said, "Hey, we're switching out of Microsoft Suite." It was a big and terrifying transition. I think it was one of those that it came out of necessity. Again, truly, we're trying to drill down and as some of very bright minds before me said, trying to reduce some of the noise. So within that, we're truly building out a lot of tech. We're utilizing a lot of AI.
Mhm.
I will, it is a blessing and a curse for sure. It's a delicate balance. It's like, hey, at what point do we let technology take over and take out the human of it? And that's a scary concept because, our industry is very resident centric. It's not something that's very, you can just be very black and white with it. There's a lot of gray area within our industry. And so, just talking tech, we're actually in another Spills exclusive. We are actually building a whole technology suite as, we're kind of venturing into the workforce housing and within that co-living. So the co-living concept, there's all an opportunity for technology and
Mhm.
we're building out an entire app that is dedicated to helping facilitate, transparency within that, kind of take some of the burdens off of our portfolio team, as well as give residents the feeling that like our management's still there. It's just, we're looking at different IPTV, which is, when you go to a hotel room and it has everything preset, it says your name on it.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing that concept. And so that'll have, I think a lot of at this time, in my position, it's a lot about mitigating risk.
Mhm.
And within that, the co living space is a plethora for risk. So, the team, we've had a lot of mind mapping sessions and just kind of brainstorming sessions of like, how do we mitigate that? So, even something as simple as, I say simple, something as simple as creating a whole app platform for bulk shared Wi-Fi, individual logins, but then having the app and communal living, you have a shared living room. So, who's going to fight over the Netflix? It's like, well, no, let's go ahead. We'll provide that. So, having those capabilities with IPTV and app settings, it's really beneficial. We've also, I've kind of shaken away from some of the traditional PMS systems and the iOS syndication components are there. But for having Arleio be so lean, we're using a platform called Zoho. Zoho truly has everything. It's a one-stop shop. And, I think that it works for us. It works for, kind of the area we're going. And it's very, technology is a wonderful thing. There's so many different connectivity components of it. So I can log in as, the CEO president and have an immediate dashboard of every single property, of all of the invoices, all of the expenses, all of the books. I can also, in that same little screen, have where we stand with hiring. I can have our portfolio in its entirety, the entire company. And then within that, we're working with some developers to even, we're going to have syndication with all of our marketing. It's a very interesting thing. It's very scary, but it's because it's new.
Yeah.
And, it is kind of scary to put all your eggs in one basket with one platform. But, within that, these are different platforms that kind of talk to each other. So we're excited for the transition, but, the unknown is always scary.
That is so cool, and I love, the workforce housing, the co-living, or I don't know if you're able
Mhm.
to say, are you able to work with some of the organizations that you and I have been part of here in Greenville for some of that? I guess that's the best way to
I
say
won't
that,
name names, but
but
yes, we certainly have dabbled here in Greenville. We do have one of the properties, Rutherford House. And
Mhm.
then next week, we are exploring some opportunities in New York within the boroughs up there. So, workforce housing is definitely a different concept. It's a little bit of an in between, but it's just another resource for access to affordable housing
Mhm.
that, while I'm having all these conversations with different ownership groups and different clients of like, hey, you know, we really should kind of look at this option. So it definitely is a different beast.
Oh, for
As
sure.
someone who traditionally, conventionally came from conventional and
Mhm.
market rate properties. Melissa Anderson has been such a help answering questions and just being able to provide light into the affordable space. Again, it's just not something that I was traditionally privy to. And it's one of those, I just want to learn more now.
Oh, yeah, and I think she might be teaching a class. I was, at an event, Christina with Belfour threw, like, a happy hour kinda thing last night down at
I saw
Coral.
that.
Yeah, and Melissa was there, and she was talking about her passion. You know, she's back in conventional now, for the moment, but well, I won't say for the moment, but she's back in conventional now, but she
Yeah,
has a heart for it. Like, that's her heart is in affordable, and she
she
wants to make
does.
sure people wanna know how to do it and do it correctly, and so I hope she
Yeah,
will go forward with wanting to
I
teach
hope
a
so
class
too.
on it. Yeah.
I will be in attendance, Melissa. You let me know.
You've
I
been
will be
called out,
there.
Mel. I love that. So how many properties does Arleo have now?
Yeah, so we could probably cut this out because I don't have many spills.
Oh, no, you're
It's
good.
one of those. Yeah, we literally have Rutherford House. I had some single family, but then this is more so just you and me talking. So I don't have a ton active right now. Active right now.
But that's good
Um,
though, because you'll have the opportunity to build out all of your,
mhm.
like, processes,
Oh
all
yeah.
of your infrastructure, and then so it'll be easier onboarding when you go and get, like, a management contract, and I'm assuming it's like, I had to renew my property management license this year, but I look back to the year that I got it, it was like 2012.
Yeah.
Long time ago. But looking back to when I last took the class, obviously, when you have an ownership group and you have a management company, you sign like a management agreement and you decide if you're going to fee manage that asset. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you've just got to
Yep.
make sure that you cover what you need to cover because, of course, as any business, it's a for profit kind of thing. And you want to make sure you
Yeah.
cover enough to be able to pay the bills, pay your people, and keep up the asset,
Yep.
basically.
Yeah, and so that's been the tricky part. It has been. It's like, hey, I hear the industry, the ownership groups are saying, we want more returns, and at the same time, adding the tech components to be like, hey, we can do that. And it's at what point do we feel like we're sacrificing those touch points and that engagement? Measuring engagement can be easy or it can be really hard. And so it just kind of depends. And life is a game of give and take. And so that's kind of with having a blank slate at Arleo is where I'm taking like all these different individuals I've met over the years and I'm trying to, hey, as someone who has been very innovative within your space in this field in this industry, what are your insights? Like, if you had a perfect world and you had a blank slate, what would you like to see? And at the end of the day, I'm not just building this for me. I'm not building this for legacy or for anything other than, I want to make a difference in this industry. I have a couple more things up my sleeve that I won't disclose just yet, but I want to see change in this industry. And, change can be hard, change can be scary. But I think that having that open mindset going into this is really what you need.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and having the experience that you did, in the networking, just you've got
Yeah.
the people in your circle, you've got the right people around you or know how to get access to those people, including legislators, because
Yeah.
we've been to DC together, we've been to
We
Columbia
have.
together, we like, "Hey, you wanna go meet with Senator so and so?" "Yes, let's
Yes.
go."
Let's go. Let's take a day trip.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think, who better than to preach making those connections are great besides the famous Katie Spillers.
Yeah.
But, making those connections are so valuable. And it's one of those people think that you have to sit down and have this obnoxiously long conversation and hit all your bullet points. And, it's not always that way. It's just showing face sometimes, showing up to these events, showing that, the multifamily industry is here and like we're attending. We want to be seen, we want to be heard. And, through that, that's why we go and take day trips to Colombia, or that's why as an industry we're in DC, and we have those partners in DC representing our community through NAA and different affiliates.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be going to DC twice next year. So,
Ooh.
yeah, we've joined NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property
Yeah.
Managers. Yep. When I had Maria Spencer on, she had Tyler Craddock, who is with their government affairs department. So our
Mhm.
firm had just joined. And so Chris was like, hey, let's get on the government affairs committee. Let's pick subcommittees. So he picked a subcommittee. I picked a subcommittee. And they have an advocacy conference, just like NAA. And it's in February. So I'm going to be seeing
Oh,
I'm assuming
back to
Congressman
back.
Timmons, yeah, I saw him last week, but assuming we'll be seeing him and our other members of the delegation next year in February and then go in for NAA's Advocate in March. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
see how other associations do their lobby day and their conferences. Although we love NAA and
Yeah.
it's very important resource, and we often partner with NARPM and the NMHC, National Multi Housing Council, on like letters in support of legislation or against regulation or what have you. So it'll be really interesting to go to DC and even further those connections with those members. And last time we were in DC together, we had met with Congressman Jeff Duncan's team. And what's really cool is that now that we have Congresswoman Sherry Biggs from that district, which is my home district, she maintained the staff. So a lot of the same people that we met with are still there. Her chief of staff, Rick. And so I'm going to an event Monday night. I know you're busy, but there's probably tickets still available. It's the same thing that we went to for Jeff Duncan, only it's Sherry Biggs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going Monday night to that in Anderson to meet her, and was able
I'll
to go
have
to
to
her
take a
ribbon
look at the
cutting.
calendar.
Oh yeah, I think I'll continue the info, and I think I showed you the picture of like I met her for the first time at her ribbon cutting, and I like fangirled a little bit, and I doubt she's listening, but I'd love to have her on sometime. But she's like, like nice to
Nothing's worse than at that same event, you, me, and John Maudlin were taking a picture with Duncan.
Mhm.
I just remember the face that he made. I think he was talking during it, and it was a face to leave a memory, to say the least.
It was his mouth was agape. It was
Yep, yep, it was.
I may even have that as one of my intro, photos onto this because it was one of the only pictures, I'd had one from where I'd been to his office in DC and he stepped out and saw us a couple, like, years ago, but, maybe even 2022 because I don't think we did advocate in person in 2021. So it might have been 2022. I had on a green dress, I remember that. But, yeah, that was a funny picture of him. We caught the congressman in mid-sentence there.
Mid speech.
That's funny. So, what have you found to be the most challenging aspect of working in property management?
Good Lord, where do I begin? There is there. I mean, I think anybody. I think that's probably most of everyone's reaction is like, "Oof,
Yeah.
where do I begin?" It takes a tough skin to be in this industry, especially people who have started off and has risen through the ranks and you know have been in here for decades. It's not for the faint of heart. But I think for me, I mean, everyone has going to have something different. For me, it has just been kind of looping back to what you said, finding the balance, because I am someone that I will work, 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 and this industry will let you work, work, work
Yes.
until you can't. There was one company I was with that I tried to do a lot, and there was a running joke at one point of like Mark sending emails at 3 a.m. again. That's and looking back, it's one of those like, oof, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been doing that. But I think that finding the balance has been one of the most challenging things personally, professionally has been just finding a place where I fit in. And, I can fit in anywhere. It's just now having this blank slate and being able to create something that's my own. I think I've kind of found where I needed to be and be able to, grow something besides just leasing up a property or, building out a team. It's like, hey, I get to do all of that now and then some.
And
So,
you get to be for your team who, we've all
yeah.
had leaders in our past that we take the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've all, if you've been in the industry for any
Yeah.
amount of time, you've had a plethora of leaders, but you have the ability to cherry pick like what you want to take from certain leaders. And you're like, okay, this
Oh yeah,
didn't work for me, or this leadership style was not effective to me. And I don't want to be that type of leader, but this one did. And you can kind of cherry pick things from that to be like, I can be to my team who I needed during that time in my career.
exactly. And that has been, I'm not trying to like find I'm not trying to be the best person for me. I'm trying to be the best person for this team. I'm trying to figure out like, hey, I want to meet you at where you are, and then let's kind of grow this together. It's not one of those I've never really been a person to bark orders. I've never been a person to, you know, see those kind of on the bad and the ugly side of these roles. I think we all can either shed light on that and say, "Hey, it is what it is," and kind of learn from that. But I feel like a lot of times, a lot of it is kind of just pushed to the side of like, "Oh, that's just who so and so is."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, being able to kind of be that leading force and being able to now create that environment that I wish I had in a certain predicament, or be that person and be that leader that I've always wanted to do that to someone else. That's kind of like, again, I say there's blessing and curses to this. That's definitely the blessing of this.
Yeah, I agree. It's the most rewarding part of it, and I hope the folks that are listening, and when I have folks on, the guests on that are property managers, and you think about the narrative that's out there, and then you listen to the guests that have been on my podcast who speak from their heart, who want to provide
Yeah.
a great space for their teams to flourish, and ultimately, it's to take care of the residents. It's because
Yeah.
you care, like you want them to have a nice place to live, and you want to take care of them. These are America's landlords. Our housing providers are trying to shift away from the word landlord, but these are America's housing providers. This is the real spill, and this is what really goes on in
Yeah.
the minds of property management professionals. You're not in here twisting your mustache, trying like,
No.
I wanna be rich. I mean, you're not doing that. It's not about like Mr. Moneybags or Scrooge McDuck. You got your sack over your shoulder. It's to be able to provide a nice place for people to call home.
Mm. And provide, an environment where I don't dread going into the office, where I don't, dread having to go into that meeting, having those opportunities to have a safe space. We're all here to work, but at the same time, that doesn't have to mean that it's, the bane of my existence either.
No, no more Sunday scaries. Like,
No.
just what fresh heck awaits me in the morning. I don't want to even look at my email, or if
Yeah.
allow Facebook in your life, and have a property that's on Facebook and you see comments or whatever, you don't have to. Oh, it's so much different being in a different place in life. And to your point, you really do have to have thick skin, and I very much didn't. I was just telling Liz the other day that my team lead that when I started in the industry, if a resident was really ugly to me, and it happens, like I mean that's the real deal too. Like we get cussed the heck out sometimes. I have been read for
Oh,
filth. I have been
yes.
read for filth
Yes.
before, to the point like where it just leaves you like you don't even know what to say back because this person doesn't know you
Yeah.
personally, and they're not maybe not upset with you. It's the policy or
Hmm.
procedure that you had to go through or enforce. And after a while, you do get thick skin about it. Like you can't let it get to you, or else you're. I had to go to therapy for it. I don't even care to tell people that. Like it used to
Same.
bother yeah, recovering people
Yeah.
pleaser. If I thought I mean, the first time I got an anywhere near negative review, I cried for 3 days.
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, don't get me wrong. I cry daily. There's always a point of the day where I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then, you kind of bounce back, but that's business.
It is, it is. You just have a moment of clarity, and crying is
Yeah.
cathartic. Yeah, it's good to get it out sometimes. It's good to
It's
get it
usually
out.
about the time the coffee wears off.
Yeah.
And, that caffeine fueled rage kind of simmers down. And the crash is what really kicks the crying off for the day. I feel like as a property manager, anyone knows around 3 or 4 o'clock, it's called the witching hour, or for some of us in my past, we call it the squirreling hour, where everyone just gets a little twirly, gets a little delusional, and then usually you kind of come to it in the last hour or so.
Yes, it does make the last part of the day go by pretty quickly because
It does.
sometimes it's coming at you so quickly, you're like, "What in the world?" And it's like,
Mhm.
"What in the world?" And I don't know if you ever experienced this when you were on site too for maintenance request. It seemed like the appliances were in cahoots because if one garbage disposal went out, you
Oh,
get 4 more calls. It's like, "What is going on?"
oh, yeah. Well, it's better than right now. As much as I love technology, I really do. We have smart fridges in one of our projects, and it is we call it possessed. It has a little sensor, so you kind of wave your hand in front of the door, which is a bewildering concept of if my hand's going that far, it's already reaching for the latch. But it will just open, and then it'll close back. It'll close itself. And it is the most terrifying thing. It has mystified several different companies. We finally figured out what it was. When it happened, and then now another unit is doing it. So I'm like, at least we know now.
Right? It's
And you can
that,
cut that out. I just,
no,
that was
that's
more of a
fine.
fun fact story.
No, I think
It
that
is
it's real. It's
truly
real. It's what
terrifying.
we do here. It's what happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, because honest to God, sometimes
So
residents do
those.
think their apartments are haunted. Like I've had that
Oh, yeah.
happen before and I couldn't tell them this, but the person across the hall really had just died. They were like, and this
Yeah.
is weird. I mean, I just let it roll on here, Mark, really.
Yeah.
So this was a couple that had lived there for a very long time and they
Hmm.
passed within, it was one of those things where one passed and pretty soon, the next the spouse passed. Well, the folks right across the hallway
Yeah.
had been there for a while too, and they were like, "We never leave our toilet seat up." And they woke up the next morning and their toilet seat in their primary bedroom was open, and we're like, "It was the portal potty." Like,
The portal potty. I love that.
and we just had to have a sense of humor about it because they were pretty freaked out, and I'm like, "Well, I couldn't the dead have no right to privacy, this information, not advice, I'm not an attorney, but, they had passed away, and ultimately, they realized that, "Oh, they passed away," and I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that" I forget their last name, I couldn't probably say it anyway, but, like, they're
Just
probably
said,
not coming up through the toilet plumbing, I hope not. Like, if that's the
one could
afterlife,
hope.
I don't want that. I hope that's not heaven.
Uh, Down the shitter.
There we go,
I don't
but
know
yeah,
it.
but appliances, like, stuff like that does happen, like, sometimes residents will think that things are haunted, like, you just never ever
Oh,
know
absolutely.
what you are going to get in the day and life of property management. It is
You
Mr.
really do
Toad's
not.
Wild Ride.
Even to this day, I will still like I'll be reviewing calls or something, and I'll listen, and I'll be like, "Well, that's a new one. And nothing ever surprises me. It's just
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, that's a new one. We'll add that to the list."
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
like,
So,
"Dear diary, this happened today," and even, it's real. I mean, our industry can be unsafe sometimes for those of us who work on
oh
site.
yeah.
And I remember at one point, the president of the management, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the president of the management company called me and said, "Watch out for the resident in da 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 apartment." And I'm like, "What do
Oh
you
wow.
mean?" And she had told him, because I'd sent her mother a 14-day notice to cure because she threatened me. She was like, "I'll have your job, little girl." And I'm like, she called me a little girl. Oh my gosh. I was like 30. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. But you can't make threats or what have you. So, I mean, and I wanted her to know I was serious. So I gave her a 14-day.
Ew.
Well, her daughter called the management company president and told him, "I've never been to jail, but I'm not afraid. I will wipe the floor with her." And I'm like, he said, "You might want to have your courtesy
Ooh,
officer park up there." And I mean, you know me and where I'm from. I was not scared.
no.
But but
And see, I'd be like, oh my god.
she's gonna beat me up. But I did have the courtesy officer park up there, and she didn't mess with me. But sometimes
Yeah.
talk about having to have tough skin. You really and
Yeah.
truly never know what each day is going to hold, and that was the first for me. I'd had someone try to come for my manager that I'd had to call 911 before because I could tell she was about to go over the desk at her. And, that was back when belted things remember when, like, girls are wearing the turtlenecks and, like, that from, like, Express with, like, belts? This was back
Oh, yeah.
then. I had already taken the belt off because I knew, I'm like, "I'm about to have
You
to."
were ready to rumble.
I know, and I knew the girl because she was from where I was from, or I'm from, so that's how I knew that she would go across the desk at my manager,
Oh,
like,
wow.
and I'm like, "Oh, no, she's gonna totally grab her by the hair. This is not gonna be good." So I took my belt off thinking I might have to, like, defend or, like, get in the middle of these 2
Yeah.
women and be like, "No, we are not doing this today." But
And I will not sacrifice my belt.
I will not. It was from Express.
I love
Not a
Express.
sacrifice. It wasn't Gucci, but back then Express was, like, the bee's
It's
knees.
still like
Yeah.
they
Um,
have really good blazers, like the cotton ones. Very
yes,
good.
yes. That can ruin my belt, but,
Yeah.
yeah, you just never know. You have to be prepared in our industry to deal with it all. You really and truly
Yeah.
do, and training and all that, like, as you're hiring new team members, are you guys obviously are on calls all the time, like, have you had to
Yes.
go through, like, training platforms? Are y'all, like, reaching out? Are you doing that internally?
Yeah. So as we're building out our platform, we have the human resources component to it. So we have our own learning management system that we've utilized trainings kind of up until this point within the National Apartment Association. They partner with Visto. So we've utilized that. But now, kind of as we're building and growing our teams, we're kind of creating new and just different approaches to, you know, what does the leasing kind of role look like here? What does, the portfolio manager, what does, our property controller manager look like? So it's been different. Also, like I was never HR. And and that is the great thing about all of this. I don't have to be that person. I know what I am good at. I know, a lot of it kind of weighs on my decision. But at the end of the day, if you've joined my team, there are reasons, you're in that seat, and I trust that you will like uphold, not only your job, but be a benefit to this company as well. So yeah, it has been a learning curve, but kind of touching on the learning system, I'm never going to tell someone not to learn, not to grow. I think like you've mentioned earlier in the conversation, we're almost in an industry where it's either you have a leader that's in front of you that's always pushing you to grow, pushing you to exceed and excel. And then you have some of those leaders that want you to stay complacent. They don't give you the opportunities to kind of grow, and maybe for the fear that you're going to leave. And I never felt like that was a beneficial component. So, as we kind of grow out our learning platform, finding those different courses and classes and certifications even to put in those, I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah, and helping them have a career pathway too,
Yeah.
like a roadmap. Like I'm supposed to be doing that, Liz. I promise I'm working on that. But I'm supposed to be doing that for myself as well, just creating a roadmap. Okay, this is where you are now. What can we put into place to help you be
Yeah.
successful? And you know, I've worked, like, personally, I've worked for folks who were for that and folks that weren't necessarily, for
Mhm.
that. But it just depends. And it's almost a foreign concept when you have a company that really invests in their employees that way, where you're like, wow, they really will. Like, they don't just talk the talk, they really will provide you with the
Yeah.
resources. Like, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I've held and harbored some resentment towards some companies I've worked for because I had the promise of, being able to go and do stuff with the apartment association and be a part of these things. And then, when it's double backed on, I can always see kind of both sides of things. So I understood, but it doesn't mean that it didn't put a little ding in the back of my brain of like, okay, where down the line could this lead to other opportunities for problems? So,
Oh, yeah, and it's important in my opinion that leaders in companies be consistent, and people in
mhm,
general, let's just say that, people in general, because
people
when
in general.
your words don't match your actions, it shows inconsistency, and I tell people all the time, I don't miss much, even if I never say a thing, and it is a gift and a curse, and I will know something is up or something's off even if nobody ever says anything. And, Katie Duncan shares that with me too. We'll have observed different things or what have you. And then I would never maybe even say anything. Maybe she wouldn't have. And we'll look at each other and be like, did you pick? Yep.
I
Picked
know.
up on that too. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. But it's cool to be able to have the opportunity. yourself to create that balance for your folks once you guys
Yeah.
are, up and you've got all systems going. And I'm just so proud of you, friend,
Yeah.
and for how far you've come, and for your drive and your determination, and for all that's ahead of you. Like, you're out there doing big things, for yourself and for your family, and I'm just so proud.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's never easy for me to talk about myself. So, nonetheless, take a compliment, but thank you. I truly appreciate it. I've said it once or twice before, but I'll say it again. I wouldn't be where I am or in the positions or even have the courage to do half of what I do if it wasn't for, driving forces personally and professionally like you. You've also come such a far way. I mean, look, you have a whole podcast, as someone that shares kind of a fear of God talking, you're hosting a whole podcast. So, I think it speaks volumes, surround yourself with the people that you love and keep them close. So,
That's right, that's right. We can continue to build each other up.
yes,
Absolutely.
I'm all for it.
And I, would love to know, other than your company obviously getting up and going, continuing, what are you looking forward to for the rest of this year? I can't believe we're already in, like, Q4. Like, what else? What are you looking forward to?
I I'm already, and it's gross because I'm already in. I think that as I've grown in the industry and in, kind of the mindsets I'm in within a company, the further out my mindset has to shift. So I'm already like year 5, 10 is kind of like where I'm planning, but I'm already stuck in Q1 of 2026. But I want to say in the next 5 minutes this is where I'll be. But that keeps changing, and in good and bad ways. But kind of what I'm looking forward to is just the progression of Arleio, seeing some of these wonderful projects, and some additional things kind of come to fruition is kind of where the next few months into the next Q1 of 2026, and then of course the actual wedding, the party, that's kind of personally what we're looking forward to. But so yeah, there's an abundance of things I have to look forward to, and that's just the high level.
It's all exciting stuff, all onwards and upwards,
It
and just
is.
continuing to build. And I'm sure the answer is everything, but what's keeping you? We do this at the legislative committee meeting for NAA. What's keeping you up at night?
Not much because melatonin takes me down. But outside of that, like you said, there's a lot that keeps me up. There's the worry of failure. I think that is something that no matter where you are in life, no matter what position you're in, it's the fear of failure, and it's not even fear of failing myself. It's fear of failing others, feel failing, my employees, my clients. And so, I think that's probably one of the worries that kind of keeps me up at night is just the fear of failure. And, recognizing it, being able to speak to it helps kind of the anxiety suppression with that. But that's what keeps me up at night, the fear of failure.
And just acknowledging it, and then don't stay
Yep.
there. Just move
Now,
on. Yep, yep. I think that's totally
and that's
normal.
the thing. You can't dwell. That's another thing I've painfully learned is I can process, I can feel. It's okay to feel emotions, and as the kids like to say, hold space for these different feelings and these different emotions. But then at a certain point, and unfortunately, sometimes it is quickly. I have to let it be. It is what it is. We'll grow, we'll learn, or like, hey, this was great. Let's copy and paste.
And, I'm a big hip hop lover, a big music lover. So I always like to ask folks and leave it on something, super positive. Do you have a favorite song? And if you do, what is it and why?
Yes, I do. So of course, anyone who knows me knows my music genres spanned vastly. But if there was one song that I probably could listen to, it would be Anywhere Is from Enya. It has helped me mentally. I found that in the drive from my office home, I will leave the car, I won't play any music. I will just sit there in silence. But if I, have had a bad day, or, if I just want to not dissociate, but also dissociate and just kind of be in a different headspace, I'll listen to that song. And when I highly encourage you listen to it, because it'll be you like that song, like that's just a different. It's very kind of low and very in tune, like it kind of brings me down, but it calms me down. So that's probably one of my favorite songs.
Awesome. I love Enya. I remember in high school, I took art class. I was horrible, absolutely horrible. Brad's the artist, but we would listen to Enya while we would like do our drawings and stuff because it really did have the ability to just bring you into the present, I guess. And it
Hmm.
stops your mind from like it's captivating, right? Like the who can
It is.
I can't sing, but who can say where the heart goes? And you're just like only
And
time.
yeah, and you just kind of get lost. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say anything about Beyonce because,
Oh yes.
she's taken thousands of my dollars. So we've seen her on all the
Yep.
tours. It's been great. But and even like the OG Beyonce stuff, like
Yes.
around the Destiny Child when she was trying to break out, that stuff. But
Oh yeah.
but yeah,
Oh,
I'd
that's
say
the
if
good
one
stuff
specific
too.
song. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it out. I listen to, R&B mornings as I'm getting ready to come over into my home office and work, and I how in the world I forgot that Destiny's Child used to have, like, 4 members. I'm like, "Oh my god, am I getting that old that I forgot?"
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, wow." But, yeah, a lot of the old music videos are coming on that I had some of the songs I
Heck
had
yeah.
even forgotten about.
Oh, I love it. There's like a what I love to consider, I have a council, but it's really just this like three individuals that I send memes to on a daily basis. And they shall go unnamed because I also look to them for a lot of personal advice and professionally.
Yes.
But yes, it recently has been a lot of like on Instagram, it'll be like O is for, but, or B is for back that blank up.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it will play the song in the background. So it's definitely, I got a wide array of music genres that I like.
Well, music speaks to different parts of our personality, and we're all so
Mhm.
multifaceted, right? Like, we all have so many varied and
Oh,
different
yeah.
interests, and, sometimes it's juvenile, and sometimes it's Enya, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
Beyonce, it's
Hey, sometimes, I'm getting down with it at either Blind Horse or RIP or, with like Cowboy Up. Like, I love me some country music.
yeah, variety is
Eh,
the spice of life, right?
It is.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to the real spill here with me today, friend, and continue to
Of
wish you
course.
the very best. And I have no doubt that you're going to continue to crush it, and that when time allows, that you'll be in the trenches with me, going on some visits with some representatives and
Oh,
senators.
yes.
So.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Well, thank you again, and obviously open opportunity or open invitation to come back anytime.
Of course. No, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Of
And
course.
hope that this conversation, someone was able to take something away from it.
Oh, yeah, I'm certain that they will. You're an inspiration, friend. Own it. All right, guys, and that's it for today's episode of The Real Spill here on the Multifamily Media Network. Until next time. And that's a wrap on today's episode of The Real Spill, a podcast where I spill on all things multifamily advocacy and how we as industry professionals can work together with our elected officials, stakeholders, and allies to bring about change for the rental housing industry. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've learned something new. Now, go be a voice. Until next time, Spills out.